I'm Shane Nyland, and my co-host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi, 2004. All right, Brian, well, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you were and what rank you were in 2004 and what platoon you were with.
Yep, most definitely. Good afternoon. Name is Brian Fox. I came to you guys from 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines in 2004, and I was a corporal at the time.
Rainmaker platoon, is that right?
I did with Sergeant Garcia.
Yep. Ah, well, you were, before we push record, you already said that you're kind of thinking about the way you got over there, so we can start from there, the formation and learning about going on another deployment.
Yeah, actually, I talked to Sergeant Garcia probably a few weeks back, shortly after he did his podcast, and told me about your guys' program here. And he asked the question, he goes, "Can you tell me or recap how we met?" And I said, "Sure." So I guess I'll start from that. Well, as you guys know, you talked to other people in 3-5. We were your guys' combat replacements, and I think it was the beginning of May. So building up how we got to that point. So got home from the initial push in 2003 with 3-5. Got home around September. Spent some time back in the States. And actually, I think it was the first time in San Mateo's history that all 4 battalions, including yourself, was there. So my company, we weren't able to live in any barracks in San Mateo. We actually got one of the Quonset huts in Horno for overflow because there wasn't any more rooms available when we first got.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, all 3 battalions that were over, and then you guys were in Okinawa, and you got extended out there actually for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah,
6 months.
Yeah,
and so we were all there at the same time in the base, and of course, it's not set up for that one battalion that's supposed to be in Okinawa at the time, and they just rotate the housing. So now that all 4 of us there, we're in Quonset huts. I tell you that because it builds up to. We were having a battalion formation, so all the Horno Marines that were living there, we had to drive over to San Mateo. And, of course, you get there early, right? You don't want to be late, standby to standby. So we get there tremendously early, and our platoon's holding a little formation. And we had one of our staff sergeants, no names, but we didn't like his leadership style. And he gathered us all up at the basketball courts where we're just meeting a little horseshoe there. And he's just laying into one of our shitbird Marines. Like every platoon has one, right? And he's just laying into him about personal things. Your finances, I'm getting calls from this credit card company and this and this and this. And it wasn't a real formation. It was a horseshoe. But in there, I raised my hand. I was like, Staff Sergeant, maybe this is something you guys could take offline. The platoon doesn't need to know about this stuff.
For sure.
And and he goes, Corporal Fox, I think you just need to be quiet right now. And I go, oh, with all respect, Staff Sergeant, I think you're the one that needs to be quiet right now. That triggered now spotlighted, right? So we hold our formation. We go back to Horno, and that Staff Sergeant walks into our Kwanzaa, and he's like, give me Corporal Fox right now. And he pulls me over to the side. And he goes, do you have a problem with me? I go, I don't have a problem with you. I just have a problem with what you did. That was all personal stuff in front of a formation, regardless of who it was. And he goes, you're going to be problems. He goes, if I can get you fapped out, would you go? And I was like, where's the dotted line? I'll sign it right now. So he got me actually fapped out. I was like one of 2 Marines in 3-5 that got out, and I was fapped out, and I got assigned to military police. And it was a job. I stood the gates. That's all I was. I wasn't certified to drive the patrol cars and do anything like that. Fapped out is, like less than a year on your contract. You just get a filler job. Hopefully I could have got, passing out towels at the gym or something like that. But no, they got military police. And actually, like, the schedule there wasn't that bad. If they stuck to their schedule and didn't play fuck games like they do, you would work like 16 days a month. It was a schedule like work 2 days off, work 3 days off, something like that. Well, I tell you that because all of a sudden I get a phone call from one of my friends. He's his name's Travis Day, or Colonel. Yeah, you guys know.
Yeah, he was in my platoon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get a phone call from Colonel, and he goes, dude, they're gonna get another round out of us. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I guess we're holding a formation tomorrow, and they're gonna give us 3 options to pick from. And I was like, what time tomorrow? And I don't remember the time, but he told me. But it was on one of my days off. And I go, you know what? I'm going to go, and I'm going to go listen. So it's my day off. I think I showed up in Civies, and I don't remember where it was. I heard someone said it was in the gym or something like that. And they pretty much gather up all the short timers, people with less than a year. And they go, it boils down to 3 options for you guys. Either you're going to re-enlist and stay with 3.5, you're going to extend your contract and do one more deployment with 3.5, or you're going to be a combat replacement for 2.4. It's your choice. We need your choice pretty much now. And so everyone's just like, oh shit, okay. You know, when you get that thrown at you, what are you going to do? And I remember my old platoon lieutenant was there, Lieutenant Dunkelberger, I believe it was. And I go, sir, I said, I don't know how this works or anything, but can I get out of my FAP? He goes, I'm not sure either. I was like, well, how do I get on that list? He goes, I don't know. You're going to have to talk to your military police chain of command. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to try doing that. And I go back and I talk to the desk sergeant on that day off. And I go, hey, I was like, how does this work with FAPs? Can I like volunteer to end my FAP and go out? He goes, I don't think it works like that. He goes, tomorrow you're going to have to talk to your first sergeant. And I was like, okay. So the next day comes, and I go talk to the first sergeant. No, I take that back. The staff sergeant says, I don't think you can. If anything, you're going to have to talk to first sergeant. Well, I had questions, okay? And me being naive, it worked out. I actually called 3.5's XO. Okay, so I called the office. I got somehow connected to him, and I, sir, how does this work? I'm Brian Fox. 3.5, I'm fapped out, 81's platoon, all this other stuff. You know, the rest of the guys were given a choice. I want to figure out how to work out this FAP to get out of this. You know, he goes, oh, okay. He goes, here's my office line. Give it to your command and have them call me. I'm sure we can work something out. So that's where the next day I went to the first sergeant, and I knocked on his door for the military police, and I said, hey, first sergeant, you know, Corporal Fox, you know, fapped out from 3.5. My guys are in a situation. They're going back. I want to figure out how to go back with them. He goes, you have no right to talk to that chain of command. You no longer report to them. You're military police, you know, all this other stuff. And I said, okay. I said, but I do have a phone number of my old XO, and I'm hoping you can give him a call. And he's like, okay. And so I paused, and I'm waiting for him to grab a pen like he's going to write down that number. He was like, Corporal, what's the damn number? I'm like, oh, 760, blah, 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 blah. And he didn't write anything down. He goes, good job. You gave me the phone number. Get out of my office. And I was like, well, that son of a bitch. He's not going to call him. And didn't even write down his number, you know, obviously. And so what do? Well, I have the number, so I call it back, and I talk to my XO again, my old XO. And I was like, hey, sir, I talked to you yesterday, you know, fapped out, and he didn't take down your number. I don't think he's going to give you a call. He's like, hold up. You hear some typing. He goes, is it first sergeant? I don't remember his name. And I go, oh, yes, sir, it is. He goes, tell him to check his damn email. And I was like, oh, not doing that, you know. So the next morning was my work day. And in there, when you start a day, it's a 12-hour shift. So I report there like at 0400, and we get our morning briefing, and then we go out to all our gates. And you get assigned what gate you're signing at. Okay, you know, Bobby and Jim, you're going to, you know, Del Mar gate, you're doing this. And my name wasn't called. And they go, Corporal Fox, report back to your chain of command. You're no longer military police. And so I was like, oh, hell yeah. So I got out of the FAP, you know. So now I'm like in this purgatory mode. I'm like really assigned to military police. I'm somehow figuring out how to finagle my way back to a deployment with my brothers. You know, the only reason I want to go is because they're going. And I heard some of you guys' podcasts, like one of you guys were embassy. You had orders to it, but your feeling is if you went to that and something happened, you know that would probably haunt you for the rest of your life. Well, that was my feeling with my guys that I was very close with.
Yeah.
Since SOI. So now I'm somehow on this roster back with 3.5, and so I'm on the list to be a combat replacement because that's what I picked. And then we had an option to be first wave or second wave. First wave is leaving like in a week or two, and second wave is a to be determined date. well, if you're going to do it, let's rip off the Band-Aid. So the group that you guys know of, we're the ones that all raised our hand to be part of first wave. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And what happened is second wave, who was going to do it, they actually never went, you know?
Oh.
So they never got called up. So I got out of MPs. I did this first wave, you know, second wave didn't deploy. And then they actually did like a week training or something like that. We were all pissed off because we were like, if we're going back over, why are we spending a week camping at this mountain town doing some room clearing training, where, you know, if we're leaving, we would rather be with our families. Like it was a camp out. We were staying the night over there and all sorts of stuff. So that training went by, and now it's time to fly out. And like some told you, we flew a commercial flight and got into Kuwait, and we were off to go see you guys. Actually, it's a little more to that. We flew in. I don't remember where we trucked to, and we set up at one of our base, and there was a handful of people from 3-5. We have the group that you know, which is all 81's platoon. I think there was a total of 9 of us. There was a small group of Cap platoon, and there was pockets of group of all our line companies, Lima, Kilo, and India, and everything from 3-5. So for the sake of conversation, let's just say there was 9 to 10 of us in each one of those clusters, right? And we staged at this place, and we're getting what battalion we're going to. We did not at that time. I told you it'd be a combat replacement for 2-4. It wasn't actually said that way. It was just a combat replacement. We didn't know who it was for at the time.
Okay.
And we didn't know who it was until we all got staged up, all those clusters of 10. And I don't remember where we were at. We landed in Kuwait, and I think we trucked to this place.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like all of Cap platoon, they got sent somewhere else. And then everyone else that was there pretty much got sent to 2-4. Okay. So Cap platoon went somewhere else, 81s. And then I think it was 2 or 3 pockets of line company guys went to 2-4. And we got there. I know for a fact that from where we were at, either we flew somewhere closer and they trucked us on 7 tons. And I remember that because we were all like standing up on the 7 tons and looking. And then when we got to you guys, you're like, you guys trucked in? And we're like, yeah, we're trucked in. But I'm sure one of you guys met us as day missions or QRF and escorted us in or something like that. So we get to you guys, and I don't know where they clustered us all up. I want to say it was, so we're all in Hurricane Point at that time. And let's just say we're in one of the, I think there was a bigger room in one of the palaces, or maybe it was a large tent or something like that. And it was, I want to say it was First Sergeant Mac that was hosting and organizing everything. Off of my memory, my story, that's what it is. I remember that we're all like sitting in our groups. Because when you're close with your unit, so that's who you hang out with. You're all 3-5, but you're different things. So we're all clustered, all of weapons company, all of the Lima company guys. And First Sergeant says, "Hey, you guys are all going to go in your little clusters to different areas. Weapons company needs like 10 people. Snake Pit, was it?
Yeah, Fox Company.
Yeah. And there was another
combat outpost with Golf and Echo.
Okay, so they were dividing it up, and from what I remember, that First Sergeant Mac, very very cool guys, let us make a lot of our own decisions. And he goes, so I will leave it up to you guys on where you're going. And I remember when he came back in to figure out where we're going, he started with one of our line companies, and he goes, so where is this group going? And someone says, hey, we want to be the people in your guys' weapons company. And then he goes, all right, where's this line company going? And he said, whatever company was in Snake Pit. And then he got to us, and we're like, well, shit, that means we're a line company. We aren't a line company. So our group was like, well, hold up, there's a problem. We want to be weapons company because we are a weapons company. And we understand that you guys aren't using your cruisers, but if you do, we know how to operate the mortars and everything. And the fact that the first time after we got to Baghdad, we all settled in a city, and we were QRF for that city. So we drove all the Humvees and all the cruiser weapons and everything else. So that's what we do, and that's what you guys are doing here. We think it should be us. And he was like, Yeah, that makes sense. You're going to weapons company. You're going to the line company. So thank goodness for that. Actually, just because that's what we knew, that's what we were comfortable with.
Yeah.
So we were now weapons companies, and we walked up to your guys's huts. I think there was 6 of them. The first one staring at all of them was the translator hut, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, the closest one to the gate.
Yeah, and then Rainmaker, you guys sledged, and then the others.
Map 1, headquarters, map 2, map 3. Yeah.
So we're all standing in between Rainmaker and Sledgehammer, and it was like all the sections leader came out, and it was just like picking your Pokemon cards, So I remember Sergeant G was like, well, Rainmaker needs 1. And he goes, oh, we'll take you. And he pointed to me. So when I told Sergeant G the story, I told him all that. And I go, so how did we meet for the first time? You just pointed at me and said, hey, you're with us. And I said, okay, And then Sledgehammer, you guys got Adams, Martinez, Clark. And the first time you got Larson. And then Hampton, Colonel, Martinez, and John Mark Lopez. Yep. They all went to the maps. Yep. So that's how I first met you guys. And it was an experience. And I tell you, it was an experience because, I was picked all by myself, and I was all, this is, if you edit it, this is where you put in the sad, soppy music and everything, because I was so alone. I really was. So everyone had someone, and I think it was just a couple of days, that I was with them all by myself. But not knowing anyone. I remember the first time after we got settled in Diwania and everything, we got some embassy guys dropped to us, and I remember it was a very cold welcoming. Like they aren't with you, they aren't bonded with you. You don't know how they operate or anything like that. They may have rank. You don't. Rank is everything in the infantry. You don't respect that individual or that rank because they're new at that time. And I never thought I would be in that situation, but there I was. I was that new guy by myself with a platoon that, you guys went through shit, and you guys were definitely bonded through battle. And here I am, just this new guy by myself. And man, I just felt so isolated and so out of place and everything. And I was like, man, this is what I volunteered for, not to be with anyone. Because the whole volunteer thing was to be with one of my guys from 3-5. Sure. So it was actually First Sergeant Mac. Did a really good job. Kudos to him. He checked in on us. You could tell who we were too. And the reason you could tell who the 3-5 Marines is because we didn't have the Dedrick Dizzies. So we got those just before we deployed, but we didn't get the 8-point covers. We got Dedrick Boonies. Mm-hmm. So we were the only ones that had Boonies with you guys. Yeah. So when you saw a Boonie guy, that was a combat replacement. But he checked in with us, and I think he started with me, and he goes, hey, Corporal Fox, how's the platoon, treating you? And platoon was actually very respectful, as welcoming as they could be, I was right beside Hodges and Herschel. everyone has a story of him. So I slept right beside them. Everyone has
everyone has a Joe Herschel story.
Yeah. I saw that man naked more than I've seen myself naked. But
and it's a humbling experience, isn't it?
Yeah. And then Hodges was like senior by age, I believe. I believe it was much older than everyone. He's like, God dang, put that weapon away. We don't need to see that thing, So that was like my mornings I woke up to. But yeah, First Sergeant checked in. And he goes, Fox, how you doing? I said, doing well. How's the platoon treating you? Oh, doing well. Getting to know everyone. And he goes, well, who's your buddy or something like that? I go, I don't have one. They only needed one person. He's like, no, it ain't gonna work like that. You need one person. And so I remember gathering up Adam, Martinez, Clark, and Larson. And I go, hey guys, I said, it sucks not having someone. I was told to pick from someone. You guys have 4. Everyone's either else 2 or 3. I said, who wants to come over with me? And Martinez and Adams were like, wow, we're best friends. They're like 2 kittens always wrestling. and Clark is just like, hey, they're giving me a leadership position or something like that, and I was like, Larson, come on over here, so I took him, and that was good. In fact, my 12-year-old that you may hear, his name is Royce, and the guy that I took was Royce Larson. So yeah,
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's how we got to you guys. And that's where it started.
Yeah, no, I hadn't really thought about it until really having a little bit more of a conversation with Mike and Jason that, I mean, the tale is as old as time of the new guys coming to a unit that's been hit hard, that they're a combat replacement. And then the people that have been there, it's, whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's hard to integrate that new person for a variety of reasons. That's a rough role.
Yeah, you don't ever think you're going to be in it until you're in it, and then you're like, oh, this is what it's like, So, but that feeling was short lived. The Sergeant G, and you guys are gonna have to help me with names. Sergeant Layton, I believe it was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other individuals, obviously, in the platoon, but they were welcoming. I didn't really receive cold shoulders or anything negative. It was a young platoon. I knew that. A lot of the corporals were newly promoted, and Sergeant G and Layton, they seemed to be seasoned and everything, but it was a young platoon, so I'm thinking my rank helped. Another thing that helped is I'll get to it, is when I volunteered to drive, but I guess that will segue into this. So when we got to you guys, I think we flew out beginning of May and staged for a while and ended up finally getting to you guys either a day or the day of salvage. And we remember that I think Rainmaker, they were going out. Well, first off, you know what, the schedule that you guys had was very good. And I don't know if you guys talked about that. You guys had 5 sections, I believe, between the things, and your rotation was healthy and it was good. One of your questions is who would you like to call out? And one of my answers is whoever organized that rotation that you guys had. And what I mean by that is you guys did day missions, day QRF, night missions, night QRF, and then guard. And those were 1 week intervals. Yep. So and then if the city roared up or anything or something happened, like, everyone was going out and they were willing to, but when it was the normal operations, it was livable. You got your sleep, you got your downtime, you got whatever. So it was a really good rotations. Whoever did that, good job, you guys.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know who came up with that. I'm going to bet it was a combined effort, but I have no idea who came up with that. I'm hoping I'll find out in the future. That's a good question.
Yeah, I noted that because when we first got in, I don't want to do a lot of the back and forth of 3-5 to this, but when we got into Ed Diwania the first time, the rotation that we set up, it was like a 4-hour foot patrol, 2 hours back, 4 hours guard, 2 hours down, 4-hour foot patrol, and we were doing that over and over and over again, and we were just like walking zombies. I remember seeing your guys' schedule, and I was like, okay, this isn't bad, So yeah, good job on that. What was I saying before that? Why did I say all that?
I think you were just talking about how coming in on Savage's, right around there, that you were hitting probably right at the beginning of a cycle. So
Yep. So you guys, Rainmaker went out on a mission, and I was not allowed to go out with them. I acclimated or climatized. I don't remember which one they said, but they said that I needed a few days there before I start going out in your guys' rotation. And I don't know what it was. I believe that you guys ran, I think you called them IED sweeps at times. I mean, think of the wording behind that. You guys were driving around for IEDs. So they went out and everyone knows the story. You guys got hit, and it was a long day, and you guys came back. We didn't know what was going on, and of course emotionals were high, rightfully so, and and everything. And that's when Savage was killed. And in fact, I think you guys also, you didn't lose, but a driver of vehicle 2 was injured. I believe someone took some on the leg. And so that gets me, that's where I was going with it, is I was saying my rake helped, but also me volunteered. So later on that evening, they held a formation and they said, all right, they're giving a debrief and everything. And they said, we're still here. We're still operating. Someone needs to drive vehicle 2. And that's where I raised my hand. So I raised my hand to be the driver of vehicle 2. I told him, I said, I wouldn't mind doing that. I drove a lot the first time. The only thing I would ask for is, can I have a mono instead of a bino? And the reason I wanted the mono, for people that are listening, is we don't drive with headlights, but all the locals do. So instead of getting whitewashed in both eyes when a car drives by at night and you're blinded, I would close the one eye and open up the one that wasn't covered, and then do the reverse when they were done.
It's the old pirate trick, man.
Yeah, the old pirate. So Sergeant G says, I'll get you a set of monos, and he got me a set of monos, and then I was the driver for vehicle 2, which was his vehicle. I was driving him around, and that's where we really kicked off our relationship. So
that's cool, man. Nice. And that's actually I don't know why you did it necessarily, but that's smart. I mean, it gives you a chance to kind of, exactly what to do. You're just driving.
I'm just driving.
Yeah. And then when you get somewhere, then you can do something else. But like 99% of the time, you're going to be behind the wheel and you got to take care of the truck. So that's a good starting place.
Well, and go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that when we've had, I don't know if we said it this directly before, but over in Ramadi during that time, you needed to have really, really good drive. Thank God we did, but that was not a time to have the biggest idiots behind the wheel. You needed somebody that could actually think for themselves. And so,
I'm Sergeant G would compliment the driving. He goes, I love it. I'm aggressive. He goes, you would push people out of the way. You would yo-yo, you'd speed up, you'd slow down, you'd swerve, you'd do all this other stuff, And so that was my job. I mean, what tense moments driving through the marketplace, right? Where the foot traffic is heavy as hell and you can't just buzz right through. But I knew that my Humvee was a lot heavier than, people walking in the street. So I wasn't hitting them. I was
right.
Sure they would get out of the way. So that was me volunteering. And I think I said that because I wasn't in the back. I started out with a high back. So the people in the back were dismounting, do their thing. If it was I always called them county fairs. Was that one of the things that we called it?
Operation County Fair was right before you got there. But there was 3 operations that were called bug hunts, and those were the bigger ones.
Yeah.
County Fair is also another one. We had a couple of those. The county fairs usually were smaller, and the bug hunts were bigger, like district size. I don't know who decided these naming conventions. And then Operation Traveler was the other big one that was in like late August or in early August. And that was most of the section south of Route Michigan where Zarqawi's family supposedly was.
Okay. So anytime one of the operations happened, like I wasn't, because if it was a mission or a QRF, like they turned when they dismounted, it was a Formula line company, right? They're on foot, but I was not. I was with my gunner. We had one of the 50 cals, so I always stayed with the vehicle. So I say maybe my rank, volunteering, and just staying with a vehicle where I wasn't mixed with the line company practices when they dismounted. I think that helped where I was gaining respect with the guys a little bit. So yeah,
nice.
Yeah, very good.
And I don't want to jump the story just too far, but just for my framing purposes, how long did you stay in country with us? Did you leave early or did you come back? I don't remember.
No. I flew out on one of the helos. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks before you guys left. I believe we left the end of August and you guys left the end of September.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds right. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't mean to jump the story. I'm just trying to.
And the reason for that is my end was October 1st, so that was the end of my contract.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that was quick then for you too.
Yeah. I mean, they were getting one more deployment, and if I wasn't fapped out for button heads with that staff sergeant, I would have been there. But yeah, they gave me about 4 weeks to get checked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to so let's see here. Going back to May, we had a couple operations coming into there.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you were sticking mostly with the truck because you were the driver. Do any of the missions in particular stick out to you?
Not the names. If you tell me events that happened in there, that rekindles a lot of my stories. I could tell you stories about the VBIEDs that went off behind us.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't we just start with some of the stories, right? So the so I started driving. So let's just say it was May 13th. May 13th or 14th, if I could start driving after a few days and after everything happened. And I was driving around and just being aggressive and probably naive of the situation. All I was used to was firefights from organized groups, right? And that was the first time. And this was now different warfare. And what had changed, not the terrain, just the tension and our tactics and their tactics. The first time over, it would be 6 people, as stupid as it sounds, probably no radio communication, going out in town, drinking chai with the locals just to show presence. Your guys' time and what we experienced is when we wanted to run to the army base or something to go get lunch because they had better food, it was mandatory 5 vehicles with full crews, every in calm and everything. And then like I said, the first time, gunfires, we knew who we were fighting, we saw them, and then kind of, I just say guerrilla warfare, in your guys' area, or mount warfare. And really the biggest fear then was IEDs, and we didn't know what IEDs were the first time.
And neither did we.
yeah. And then IEDs that then go to VBIEDs. And one of your guys' question is what do you wish people knew, I guess, about Ramadi or Iraq or whatever. And I wrote down, I go, well, they're not stupid, they're not dumb.
That's true.
They're very, very, very creative. When we would go out in one of our bug hunts and we would gather up all the weapons we found and all the makeshift stuff, there's a lot of creativity in some of the weapons and how they launched them, especially like the mortar systems, morning and night. They knew we had counter battery radar, covered by the Army and stuff, but they found out to keep the shells, low enough, or they were launching them where they were, plenty of yards away, where if return fire went, they weren't being hit. I remember, tail signs were new construction. Like if you saw a piece of, we'll say curb, if it looked brand new poured or whatever, like stay away from it. Why is that poured? What's in it? Well, there's an artillery round or a mortar round with a device, and the concrete is now the shrapnel around it.
Yeah.
If you roll, we talked about Michigan downtown, and all of a sudden, you get to feel the locals. Really, if you see the foot traffic start to clear an area, you better stay out of that area too. It's because they knew what was going on. I mean, just the creativity that they had. By all means, they weren't dumb at all.
Do you remember your first firefight on this round? I know you fought, during the first push. I'm sure you got in a couple, but do you remember your first one with the 2-4?
Yeah, I do. I don't remember the date or anything like that. I remember, the town reared up a handful of times. I think even in the time that I was there. And then one of our first little scrimmages, I think it was when we were on the QRF rotation during the day, and we launched out with one of the line companies. And it was a firefight. They dismounted. So I don't know where the guys in the vehicle were or anything. I just know that I don't remember what it was. It was like a 2-way radio, a push button right here, single mic. And I was connected to Sergeant G with that. Mm-hmm. And he would tell me, hey, I'm I'm down the road, and I remember just being aggressive. I was like, I have the 50 cal. This is what they want, So I would push my gunner up, and you watch down that way, and then I'll get out of the vehicle. I'll watch this way. Wherever your back is, that's where I'm at, stuff like that. And I remember that was the first firefight. I remember I was very intrigued. I was taking a lot of pictures. I was very intrigued by like bloody shoes for some reason. So if you ever want photos,
you have an art installation.
I just thought it was so wild that like, hey, this person actually ran out of their shoe, and I was like, I get why they did it. And there's a big old pile of blood and stuff like that right there. So I got a lot of those. Maybe that was me trying to be an artist or something like that. I don't know. But that was my first firefight. I remember like crashing through something because I was like, Sergeant G wanted the 50 cal watching down this road. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to think who my gunner was. I called him Furby. Because he was super hairy all over the place. So I was like, you're like
Cifuentes?
Yeah, Cifuentes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the hairiest. Yeah. Well, probably the second hairiest man I've ever seen, but he's up there, man. That guy, like Sasquatch.
He was super cool. I remember he said that I think he's from Washington and his family had a Christmas tree farm and they sold Christmas trees.
Yeah, weird. That's a good memory, man. Yeah. Now that you said it, I remember that, but I wouldn't have remembered that.
Yeah. He was a cool guy. I think was he a Lance Corporal at that time?
He was.
Yeah.
I think he was. Super nice guy, wore glasses and everything. A funny story about him, I think it was his birthday or something like that. And the platoon helped him stay still on the floor by all of us holding him down, and we shaved in 81s in the back hair. So
that's perfect.
So he walked around and it looked like he had a football jersey number 81 on, but that was his body, It was cool. Yeah. So he was on the 50 cal and he wanted him down the road. I was watching the back. And I remember that was like the first mount firefight in Ramadi that I remember. And I don't remember why we were out there. And I think it was to support a line company or something like that.
That's a very common story. I mean, that's how a lot of those fights were. They were really, they're no name firefights.
Yeah. I tell people, I go, it's so weird. Like, we would stage QRF if you were QRF, all the vehicles in case you had to like jump on it like a horse and ride off in town. All the vehicles were staged, ready to go, and you would go on in town. And I tell people it's just very weird, having that mindset of we're going out in town, and I crossed my fingers. I was like, please find a firefight instead of an IED, because it was only one or the other. Right. You're going to find a firefight or you're going to find an IED. And I was like, please let it be the firefight side,
Well, there's nothing you can do for the IED. You just get fucked up.
Yeah. Yep. First IED. I mean, shortly days after I started driving, I think it was Nova actually. I know Nova had the hospital, but was there a school? Were there schools on Nova?
There was.
Okay, so
there's one basically at each end, west and east.
So we were driving, then it was Nova, and it was a dirt road at the time, right? And was Nova a dirt road?
Some parts of it were, not all of it.
Okay. And I remember we were going down that route and someone says, hey, Nova should be safe. Kind of like the unwritten rule is hopefully they don't mess with the road that has the hospitals and schools or something like that. That's probably, I know it's completely inaccurate, but at the time, okay, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But I remember the first IED was right in front of our vehicle, and it was buried deep. So it blew straight up in the air. And I was like, oh shit, that was meant for us, And I was like, well, they're bad at their timing, But I remember that being the first IED I saw was right outside the school, and it was buried really deep on the side of the road. So
yeah, it was nice. It was nice when you got to see it, because I always figured the one that was going to kill me, I wasn't going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
The one time I got hit, I didn't see shit. I just remember getting hit and feeling like I got punched, and then that was it. And I didn't see anything.
Yep. Where at in town was that?
That was on Route Michigan. We were on our way to Combat Outpost. It was just as the main buildings of the city started to break up, and you started to head out into the farm country to get to Combat Outpost. Right at the east end of the city on Route Michigan.
Okay. I remember. I think we're on an LPOP at the graveyard or something like that, and just overseeing it. We spent hours out there, probably days actually. And I want to say we rushed out, and we were driving down Michigan because I think that was the day the police station got hit or something, bombed or something like that.
Okay.
And we were rushing out there, and as you're heading back to Hurricane Point, there's like a big split, like it wise off on Michigan.
Yep.
And right there where it wise off, I remember we passed, and then right behind us, in between vehicle 2 and 3, that was the VBIED right behind our truck. I listened to one of the podcasts of the people that were in the back of the truck. I was like, yeah, I was driving, and that thing, I mean, you couldn't see behind it. All I was worried about was vehicle number 3, because at that time then, Royce Larson, who I took, was the driver for vehicle number 3. So I was like, oh shit, was that Royce, And then all of a sudden you see him just go through the dust cloud. But yeah, right in that location was the VBIED. And I remember listening to that individual's podcast. He goes, for some dumb reason, we dismounted right then. Like, we stopped our convoy, herringbone, and we dismounted. I was like, oh, yeah, that was pretty stupid. Why did we do that? But I remember we dismounted, and the blast went in between our vehicles, but going the opposite direction was like an Iraqi taxi driver, and he took the hit. So I remember seeing him, and then like we were just like, all right, well, we got to go. Police station just got attacked, and so we went back over there. So,
if my memory serves me, I think part of our philosophy on that was that we wanted to try to capture the trigger man.
Yeah.
The human extraction teams and some of the intel people that came over and talked over at Hurricane Point, they always said that if they felt pretty confident that if they could get any of the triggermen, they could at least figure out where they're getting the munitions, because there was not a huge artillery shell munitions depot anywhere near Ramadi. It was the closest one we knew of was over by TQ Air Base, which was out past Hobony, and a whole bunch of other shit that's on a map that nobody's going to understand anyway. But far away, that's the short version. And that somebody was bringing it in and caching it somewhere. And so if they could figure out where those supply points were, we could break up the supply of IEDs and at least make the lethality less. If they were just putting like a little bit of Comp B in a soda can or something, like, mostly that's not going to kill somebody, but the 155 shells were really tearing trucks apart and tearing people up.
Yeah, it was different. That's what I feared the most. Was that
IED. Yeah, by far. Yeah.
And like we started out, I'm pretty sure you guys did what you guys called IED sweeps.
Oh, we did.
No.
Yeah. So just
Really?
I mean, just think, just think about that. The thing that we were scared the most, we were just like, we're driving around and seeing if there's an IED. Well, how do you know there's an IED if it goes off?
Yeah, mostly. If you were lucky, you could see something, like you said, disturbed pavement or disturbed dirt, and then call out EOD and take a look at it. But mostly that wasn't the case. The line company guys were doing the same thing. They had an area to patrol, and they would do IED routes on foot.
Wow.
And same thing, they lost dudes the same way. They would walk right over the top of them, because sometimes you saw it, but sometimes you didn't see shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wild.
And I know a couple guys, and I have a story myself of it, where we would be on those patrols and it would be buried, and for whatever reason they chose not to pop at that time. But then a few hours later, where you were standing, or like that exact area, even though that had to have been buried previously because there was enough activity that they wouldn't have had time to do it, but by the grace of God, for whatever reason, they've decided not to pop it. And I have one specifically where I was literally standing right on top of it, and then it hit a Fox company patrol.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, they were saying they said the curse of vehicle 2. Vehicle 1 drives by, I guess they're attempting vehicle number 2.
Yes.
And I was like, well, hold up, I'm driving vehicle number 2. I don't like this story. So yeah, interesting, real interesting.
Yeah, everybody had their superstitions. Ours was vehicle 5 and 6 always got, when we had 6. We didn't have 6 most of the time, but vehicle 5 always got hit. Always.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my rituals and routines. I guess let me tell you that superstitions, rituals, and routine. I always wore the cross that I wore the first time and everything like that. The platoon used to make fun of me because so in the huts or hooches or whatever you guys call them. So it was like a bunk bed setup, and a lot of the younger Marines, bottom bunk, top bunk, and stuff like that. And then mine was. I just had the bottom bunk and my top bunk was storage. And I remember always thinking, because you got mortared where we got mortared all the time, usually in the mortar pool. And I would look up at the ceiling. I'd like, how a round would go through that. So I would always like lay my gear out with my flak jacket, like where I lay down, on my bed, just in case and stuff like that. My helmet would be where my head is and everything. But I had a CD player and every mission, they started out making fun of me. Every mission, I would blast Eye of the Tiger through my oversized headphones, and I would listen to Eye of the Tiger. But then they started to buy into it. I remember like Sergeant G, like when we would stage up and we had another ritual in the vehicle, he'd be like, "Did you listen to Eye of the Tiger?" I was like, "Yeah, I did. We're good, stuff like that." So they started out with that, and right beside me was Hodges and all that. And I think he would start out making fun of me, but at the end he'd like, "Put that music up, let's listen to it." I was like, "Okay."
That's awesome.
One of our routines.
You got to try and take any advantage you can.
Yeah, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.